Westinghouse Little Jewel Refrigerator Radio Part 2. In Part 1 we did an analysis of these two sets. We had the parts chassis here. One set had a bunch of intermittents, bad solders, what seemed to be an intermittent capacitor, and the other one worked fairly well after I replaced a tube that was the wrong tube in the set. Both need to be recapped. I want to say let's dig into the one that had poor sensitivity and intermittence, and we could start by testing the transistor filled vacuum bulbs, metal infused encapsulated vacuum bulbs. Okay, this is probably the premier tube tester, TV7A/U, for testing this era of tubes. So it's just very time consuming to use. So let's see, this is a 12SK7, minimum is 48, so it looks like we definitely crossed that line. Now, pushing the gas, I'm not sure how to use this when it comes to that stuff. Line adjust. That's a little bit high, isn't it? 12 SA7 CBS Hytron tube. Let's see, 12 SA7, 12 SA7. Oh crap, there's two parts to this. Minimum is 50, okay. We know it doesn't have any shorts. 12 SF7 pentode section, minimum of 50. So we're happy there. Okay, let's go to the diode section. This is a pain to set this up. HY05 HY05036. HY05036. 014A and press 2. So we want 14 on the shunt. We want this on A. We want 14 on the shunt, and we want to press 2. And minimum value is 40. And that's a little bit below 40. Let me make sure I got this set up right. Yeah, it's hard to believe that the emissions would be low on the diode and be okay on the pentode when it's the same cathode. Let me pull the one out of the actually, hold on, do I have? Here's the one out of the parts chassis. Let's see. You know, these, to me, these tubes never really go bad unless the filament goes open. You could run these damn things for so many hours. Come on, today. Let me give it a minute. Okay, this one, the diode. Ooh, maybe I didn't want to do that. This one, the diode seems weaker than the other one. Okay, this is a 12SJ7. I went with the one with the stronger diode. Maybe this is part of the intermittent. Look at this pin. See that? Maybe that's one of our intermittents. Maybe I should solder that. Let me test it and then we'll solder it and see what happens. 12SJ7. This is the 12SJ7 with the bad solder and minimum of 40, I think. 12SJ7, let's see, 12SJ7, 12.6, 22B3, minimum of 40, so, I mean, it's not dead, but it's, you know, this tester is very strict on tubes. I'm going to solder that pin and see if it makes a difference. Okay, I think I fixed that. Let's see if it makes a difference. I don't know, did it make a difference? Also, when I move it around, it seems like something's intermittent. I don't know if it's another pin or it's just the socket here. This tube is definitely on the weak side. I might borrow the other one. This is the tube that was wrong in the other set. I might borrow it in the set we got working just to see how it checks. This is the 12SJ7 out of the working radio, and it measures like exactly the same. Okay, it seems okay now. Okay. That's nice. Guess I spoke too soon. Great. I'm not going to test this rectifier tube. We can see it's got a lot of hours on it, but we can test it just by measuring the B+. Well, look at the abnormality in the glass right there. That's kind of interesting. This is a 35A5 audio output Loctal. Minimum is 30. And we're right at 31. So that one's good. Okay, that 12SJ7 I put the red dot on top of because it's questionable, and that open solder joint. So I'm curious to see how it performs right now.
Or making improvements, but one of the most important things you can do is to have your home or business checked for termites, because they can be doing some serious damage behind the scenes. So I want
to the couple, my husband and I. He looks at us and says, "You have found your cross." And the cross is one another.
Still very lackluster performance. This should be blaring loud right now. That's all the way up.
You know, again, there's nothing wrong with her being asked the question. In Osborne's defense of Morgan was perfectly articulate. She just said he didn't say anything racist. So what's the problem? And then Cheryl Underwood was like, but you even defending him is insensitive and racist. And in the same way that Chris Harrison defending Rachel Kirkconnell and saying maybe she ought to be given a little grace was in fact violative of anti-racist principles. Again, we now live in a world in which you can be declared a racist with no evidence of actual racism or intent.
I'm going to change that.
You are
Okay, this is with the 12SJ7 out of the other radio that we know was working good. Today. God, this takes a long time to warm up.
Take care of your ED without leaving your home. Complete an online visit today to connect with a healthcare professional and take care of it. Go to GetRoman.com/Ben right now. You'll get $15 off your very first month. It's time to take care of the ED. Remember, get started today. You save $15 on your first order of ED treatment. Too many people when medical problems, chronic
take care of your ED.
Continue to bother them. Reaction to a particular issue is overwrought. You're allowed to do that. That does not make you a bad person. You can ask whether the feelings are
okay, let's change some capacitors. And you can also say that if somebody is there's no performance difference between this one and the other one. We know the other one works good, so it's not the tube. It's the beauty of having more than one radio to swap parts back and forth. Let's change some caps. I replaced this cap, which we thought was intermittent in the previous video, but I think it might have been the tube pin that we soldered with a .0047. And people always ask, why do some people that are new to the channel, why do you wear gloves? Well, simply put, I watched a brilliant old gentleman, friend of mine, die of lead poisoning, and it was a very sad, miserable death, and I use lead-based solder, so I don't want to even touch it or think about it or breathe it, so I wear gloves and I work outside. If you're offended, you're free not to watch, but I am offended by touching lead. I don't want to die of lead poisoning. Not likely, but you know, it's my prerogative to take a precaution.
Market. Experts say a mortgage refinance may be the only way.
Changing that capacitor made no difference. It's really like the lack of gain is before the audio stage, because it just seems that way. Look at this capacitor. This must be the across the line cap. You know, I'm starting to think maybe I should assess this a little bit more before I recap it. And maybe the way to go is the parts chassis, because yeah, I really don't want to get into this. I really don't want to get into like replacing all the wiring in this radio. I mean, this guy's budget ain't all that. I'm looking at the parts chassis, and it doesn't have all the brittle wire and stuff in it. I'm thinking maybe we try and get the parts chassis to work and see if it performs better than this, and transfer the speaker onto the parts chassis, because yeah, this is not happy. Take the power cord off of this one and put it in the parts chassis. Okay, isn't that a beautiful sight right there? So it's a 40-watt bulb. Let's see what happens. If this chassis works better, I'm tempted to put this chassis in that cabinet, because with all that brittle wire, I don't want to replace all that. Take those IF transformers apart. Dead silent. Okay, nothing when I touch the control grid. Is the speaker open? That would be okay, because we need to change it anyway. Let's do some voltage measurements here while we listen to the Blambu Blants in the background. Okay, let's see. This is our plate. 76 volts on the plate. That's not bad. Where is the control grid? This little cap, liddy cap, must be a replacement. So we got 3.4 volts on the cathode, so it looks like the audio output stage is working. So is the secondary of the thing open, or the speaker? I'm going to go with the speaker. Okay, I parallel the speaker here and I got a hum. This speaker's not nearly as efficient, but let's see. Yeah, definitely. Nothing from here, but I do have a hum and a little bit of noise when I touch the grid. Yeah. So the speaker's bad to start. Okay. I do get noise when I touch that, but nothing else. And we know this tube is good, so what's up with this? Look at how someone else has been here. This cap is cut. Look at this cap. Has been cut and respliced back together. Look at this. This cap was cut too. I just touched it and it popped off. That's just the across the line cap. These are just filters. They shouldn't, or bypass, they shouldn't stop it from completely working. Okay, here's something very weird. This tube is cold, and I pulled it out and the set is still powered up. This is a series string set. What the? 2 and 7 are the heater. So, how is this even possible, what I'm looking at? So 2 is connected to ground, right? This is ground. 7 is, am I making everybody nervous by the metal probe? So 1, 2. This should be 7. Where is 7 shorted to ground? I mean, it's going straight over here to this tube. Yeah, I'm thoroughly confused. It's something so simple. So across this filament we have nothing. Of course I'm on AC here. We have nothing, like it's shorted, but we know the tube is not shorted. And then over here, across this tube, we have 4.8 volts. What's up with this thing? I believe I found the fault. Heater to cathode short in this tube. All of the heater voltage was draining off to ground in this tube. Now I got 10.6 volts across this one back here.
You've got to be somewhat concerned about this.
We'll deal with it head on. We're not going to be timid.
This story's changing day by day.
Now more than ever, you need to tune in often to stay up to date.
KNX 1070 News Radio. Depend on us.
At Fisher Investments, we do things
What a
differently
weird
than
problem.
other money managers don't understand.
I've never
why.
seen that
Because our way
before,
works great for us.
where one tube wasn't getting heater voltage because another one was shorted heater to cathode. That is a different one. That's a new one for me.
Cookie cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No.
And there's Radio Disney. It's back on the air. So yeah, they just add to the gain. It's this guy. So that also makes sense why the light bulb was so bright, because it was shunting the filament off the ground prematurely, and it wasn't going through the whole chain of tubes. Here's the bad speaker. I might as well get this out of here. I transferred the power cord, and I really love this strain relief that they use here, this cardboard strain relief. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. That thing with the shorted tube was weird, so yeah, we're going to go with this chassis. Just look at how much brighter this chassis is than that chassis. So we're going to abandon that one and go with this one. I sure hope it fits. Continuing on where we left off yesterday. This is the tube that was pulling the heater voltage off the ground, and why this tube was not getting any heater voltage. And I'm not quite sure what this SH is. Is that shielded heater? Is that what that is? Because it appears... Yeah, this is a little bit bizarre. It appears that this is, you know, the heater voltage was going from here to ground. So this is number 3. 12 SA, no, I'm sorry, 12 SF7. So 12 SF7. So there was essentially a short from here to here, just bypassing these two filaments. It's a good thing I had it on the light bulb. It would have cooked the other tubes. And you know, looking at this, the way that all the capacitors were cut and disconnected off of this really suggests that somebody else was struggling with this problem, and maybe it was one of these people who's afraid to probe or touch or stick their hands in a live radio. You know, that makes it real hard to diagnose something when you're afraid to touch it. But you know, I guess, to be honest, there are lethal voltages. But yeah, every capacitor was cut. And I also noticed that the little 500 picofarad RF filter is missing. Like if we look at this one, we see there's this little, this is a 470 picofarad RF filter. So I don't know, how the hell did we get from a 470 picofarad RF filter to a 330 ohm resistor? Let me look at this for a second. So where is our okay, 470 picofarads in parallel with a 33K. Oh, but there's a 0.025. You know, all these radios look a little bit different. I thought, when I took this job on, I thought, oh, it'd just be an easy, you know, easy radio repair. Well, not with all the crappy parts and hack job repairs. Okay, I see what's going on. These are just like different revisions of the same radio. That you don't want to look at parts location. You want to look at, you know, actually the schematic. But so what we have our voltage coming up here. They're an 82K. Then we have a 33K. So we have an 82K and a 33K in series. And then we have an 025 capacitor pulling that, decoupling this off to ground. So on this one, here's our 33K, here's our 82K, here's our decoupling capacitor. On this one, here's our 33K, here's our 82K up in here, here's our coupling capacitor. We're still missing the 470 off of this radio, but it doesn't look like it ever had it. Now this 330 right here, which goes from line neutral, what should be line neutral with a polarized plug, goes to here and then jumps down here to the actual chassis. That's part of the chassis isolation, which you can see right here, the 330 from the chassis to line ground. So we have a 0.2 and a 330 in parallel, keeping this isolated from this, which is directly connected to the line cord. So why am I getting so deep into this? The world has enough tube radio repair videos. But this missing is interesting. The point of that is to pull any RF that would be, you know, getting into the output tube off to ground. And actually, I wonder if this is a different model radio. Here's the 470 picofarad over here. They don't have it on the schematic. It's on this side of the coupling capacitor. On that radio, it's going from here to ground. I wonder if this is a different model or chassis. I wonder if this is not an H126, although it sure looks the same. It's just, everything's laid out different. This was the parts chassis. This was the chassis that was in the radio. Then I just noticed this. This is just loose. It's not even, it wasn't even mechanically connected before it was soldered. And look at this. Look at this. This is why you don't just lay parts next to each other and dab solder on them. That's okay. See, that comes down and then it's looped around there. That's a good solid connection. But well, what kind of crap is this? I guess this was just tacked on to that down there. It's just tacked on right there to the ground pin of the filter can. Well, this thing is a 1.5K that reads 2K. I think that could probably go bye-bye. See if it's silver is what, 10%? So 10% would be 15 ohms. I mean 150 ohms, so that would be like 165. Yeah, it's a little bit high. I guess they must have changed that capacitor too. See how they just stuck it there and dabbed a little solder on it? I mean, I was going to replace that, but geez, this thing is a mess. Okay, I took this out and I put a disc in there. You know, I was looking at this. Did the idiot that worked on this, and I don't like to call other techs idiots, but did the idiot that worked on this actually solder these little push tab antenna connectors? He did. These are push. You push that and pull the wire out. Why? Why would you solder this and then barely solder this? Okay, let's see how it performs.
You're buying for your dog and he takes one sniff of it and hates it. That's why.
Oh no, wouldn't want to do that.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I asked them.
Okay, we have virtually no hum. Why did we have this in there? Like, seriously. Makes absolutely no difference. Oh, and by the way, these dry electrolytics, they hardly ever go bad. So why did we put that in there? Just to sell the customer something? Is that where we're just upselling parts? This isn't Jiffy Lube radio repair. This is only a 20. The set uses 250s. So I mean, I get paralleling that in there to sell the customer something and maybe to prevent a comeback should this go open in the future, but this work is so crappy that I can't imagine that thought even taking place with the level of competent work we see here. Okay, that looks a little bit cleaner, doesn't it? And yes, I actually cleaned out the holes and fed it down and through like it's supposed to be and twisted everything around. And
At 3 p.m. right here on KDI.
we often talk about the across the line cap and what it does. Listen.
American people are resilient, and so is the oil industry. Oil and natural gas has continued to bolster the economy with oil prices at $40 per barrel. Hi, it's Mark from the Smart Oil and Gas Show in Dallas, Texas. Investing in oil and natural gas can be a great option to diversify your portfolio, increase your monthly income, and get great tax breaks. Jerry Jones is back in oil and natural gas gas, and so is Warren Buffett. Visit our website at smartoilandgas.com to request the free investor's guide to learn how to use oil and gas to reduce your tax bill and build incredible wealth. Call now at 833-645-4500. That's 833-645-4500.
Investments in oil and gas are speculative and dependent on personal circumstances. It should be considered carefully with your tax and investment professional.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few.
I replaced the grid coupling capacitor for the audio output tube. You can see it right here. I got it nicely J-hooked in there. And I'm measuring the voltage on the grid. And I got 5.7 volts. That indicates to me that that tube is damaged and leaky. I pull the tube out and it immediately goes to 0. That tube is damaged. Okay, here's the other one out of the rusty, crusty chassis. This is something you always want to check, you know, that these tubes get grid emissions like that. Well, this one's going negative, it looks like.
The American community. The visit follows the murders of 6 of whom are women of Asian descent at spas in the Atlanta metro area. Yesterday, President Biden ordered.
So it's been running for the better part of, I don't know, an hour. And the grid on this tube is still sitting at 0, so this is a good one. The previous one was experiencing grid leakage. I've got most of the recapping done here.
Areas in the valleys and 50s in the mountain community.
Just a couple more waxies to change. Seems to work pretty good. Then we'll align it, put the speaker on, and I'm pretty much done with this one. So yeah, I J-hook. Some people might not like that, but it's mechanically sound and it's never going to go anywhere. Okay, the recap is completed. I moved the speaker to this radio from the other chassis. We have pretty good gain here.
Your music, my music, your way.
Play Jordan Fisher.
Sabrina Carpenter here.
What's up, guys? I'm Shawn Mendes.
This is Katy Perry.
What's up, guys?
Biggest hits. Radio Disney.
So Radio Disney is still on the air.
Pasadena, Los Angeles, FM 99.1, Beaumont, Los Angeles, and AM 1110, Pasadena, Los Angeles.
Your music, your way.
Okay, I'm going to let it run for 5 or 6 hours and we'll align it. Then I'm done with it. Justin Bieber for life. Backstreet Boys for eternity. Now we're on Britney Spears. Oh man, I can't get enough. Love me some Backstreet Boys. It's been rolling about 4 or 5 hours. Okay, 455 AM modulation. Going into the grid of the 12SA7 per the instructions, isolated with a 0.01, and I've also got the radio plugged into an isolation transformer. You know, this thing is a little bit deaf. I would... Well, No peak there. Something weird about that. This might have bad variable caps. So here's the old 1260 K Mozart, and it sounds clean, or was LA Oldies. I don't know, I just think it should be louder than this. Seems like there's something up with that IF can, but I'm done.
Each other and try and be a source of joy. Try and sort of.
I've always said that the size of the audio output transformer kind of determines the fidelity, and the fidelity of this radio, of course, is very good because it's got a big audio output transformer.
Who you want to say you became. Try and keep an optimistic and hopeful outlook about the future, and you'll go much further than trying to. Otherwise, we end up catastrophizing in our brains and thinking.
Catastrophizing. I have catastrophized.
Out.
Okay, so I guess we should be
Friday night football. We're gonna start at 9 o'clock.
When I wake up.
And on Friday night now.
Well, there's that San Diego station, so it's not doing too bad.
I know you're stressed. I'm gonna push this paper out 3 more weeks. Everybody just waited. If you can.
그분은 나의.
There you go. A little 70s AM gold. Robert John. Is that what this is? Sad Eyes? Ebony Eyes. There's the classical station. I wonder if this is that Korean station that plays the classic soft hits in the afternoon. They also broadcast it on one of the FM subcarriers. I don't want to have to deal with content ID here.
뉴스타임 함께하고 계십니다. 여러분, 집착한다. 뭔가에 굉장히 집착한다. 근데 이제 집착한다라는 말이 이제 뭔가 어떤 긍정적인 부분도 물론 뭐 없지 않아 있겠죠.
That's right.
이제 집착한다라는 말의 단어가 갖는 뉘앙스는 굉장히.
Look at the box of bad parts here.
2014년 2월.
In this video on a little Justin Bieber tip. Anyway, the thermal thing with this radio is very nice. The heat is coming out of these vents right here, and you can feel the heat coming out of here. So it's sucking the fresh air in at the bottom, and it's creating like a draft and pulling the cool air through it and coming up out of these vents. So it's actually a pretty nice, interesting, cool design. It's just, man, it sure didn't work out. Either these things have a ton of use on them or they're just not that good. Anyway, that's the first one. I don't know if I'll make a video on the second one. Let me know if I should or move on to something else. I mean, I can repair the other one a lot faster without a camera.